Welcome to another episode of the Growth League podcast. I'm here with my guest, Brendon Arnold. He's the Associate Vice President of Brand and Merchandising at Sherwood Hockey. Brendon, I just got out of your session earlier today. Amazing. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is great. This is the cube of creativity.
Yeah, the cube. Not built for guys over 6 foot.
Yeah, 6'3", getting into here. I'm not going to get out and take it unless you take a panel out, I think.
Let's start here. Can you give us sort of a quick overview summary of your journey as a marketing person and a marketing leader? How did it start, and how did you get to where you are today?
Sure, yeah. So I'm from Nova Scotia originally. Did a degree in public relations. There's only one university at the time that actually had a PR degree. Everywhere else, it was more of a certificate. Yep. So I decided to go there, played basketball at that university. And then from there, always knew that I wanted to be in the sports marketing world. Yeah. At the time, Nova Scotia wasn't a hotbed of sports opportunities in that field. So an opportunity opened up at Winsport. So the former Kent Olympic Park kind of organization. On one side, it was a high performance sports side with the Olympians. And on the other side, it was a recreational side. So I managed their PR and marketing for a while. Got involved in bobsleigh a little bit. Funny enough, the most random sport. If you've never tried bobsleigh, give bobsleigh a shot.
No, thanks.
It is the most random, crazy car wreck of a sport, but you got to experience once. Like there used to be public rides that you could take at these facilities. You got to try it. There's nothing like it in the world.
Put on my list.
Put on the list. From there, worked with a sports agency out in Victoria for a little bit. Worked with Ryder Hegedal, who was in the Tour de France. He was one of the only Canadians kind of top of the podium out that way, so worked with him. And then got into the FGL world. So an opportunity opened up in Calgary with the Forzani Group back then. Canadian Tire got involved. So I've been with kind of the Canadian Tire family now for, I think, coming on 13 years.
Wow.
So I kind of worked my way through PR and marketing throughout that company. And then in 2018, an opportunity came up to look after the own brands portfolio within SportChex, Pro Hockey Life, Sport Expert, and then the Canadian Tire playing division. Okay. So I said, okay, you know what, this sounds quite interesting. I'm going to give that a shot.
Hell yeah.
And in that same time frame, Canadian Tire had just purchased Sherwood Hockey. So Canadian Tire is the biggest hockey retailer in the world.
Wow.
So they thought, well, why are we letting other hockey brands dictate the agenda? Like, why don't we put some skin in the game? So they bought Sherwood, which was the only hockey brand available at the time.
And the shipment came and you had to dust off the
sticks. Oh my God, there was an inch of dust on everything, and everything still had the hyphen in it. It was wild. So I came over and was basically handed this suitcase of the Sherwood brand, of what it was at the time and what it consisted of. And there was old inventory and the whole deal. So we had to make a decision to say, okay, do we just continue this path as an entry-level, kind of cheaper, family-centric hockey brand that all relationships with hockey players are like, yeah, I started with a Sherwood hockey stick and then evolved to other brands. Or the beer league players that,
or my dad.
Or your dad, a lot of dads, a lot of moms. So there's a decision to make. It was keep it at this kind of low-key brand, or do we try to take a shot and compete with the industry's biggest and baddest brands? And the time, I brought these two options to the CMO of Canadian Tire. And he said, very frankly, we're not going to invest in this brand unless we try to compete at the top. And from that day onwards, it was trying to figure out how the hell do we take this old, irrelevant, archaic brand and compete with the biggest, baddest brands in the world within the hockey space. So that was in 2018. And for the past few years, it's just been trying to build out this brand in a way that truly resonates with that younger athlete coming into hockey.
Was there anything, I imagine so, but was there anything about the magnitude of the mission that called you? It's like something that had to be resurrected from...
Totally. I've been to the gathering, like I said, this is my 9th year.
Okay.
And every year that I come here, I'm inspired, but I'm also a little envious of like how these brands have been able to create truly meaningful brands and do things that you just want to be part of. Like those are just such emotionally connected missions that these brands are on. And I always wanted to be part of that. Yeah. So when Sherwood came up as an opportunity to take those reins, I thought this could be that brand if we do it the right way with a little bit of luck, get it to the point of a world-class brand that hopefully one day someone can maybe see in a textbook about the resurgence of what's been able to happen here.
You got to be proud about that.
Beyond. And it's not just me. Let's be
No.
I
understand.
It's a full team effort, product development, design, brand, the corporation as a whole. Like everyone is entrusted the vision that we've had for a brand.
Yeah.
And like I said, sometimes you need to fly under the radar a little bit to get some things done that isn't very, I would say, normal or traditional in the space that we play within, kind of in that in the whole like Canadian Tire Sport Check world. Yeah. But if you can prove that it works, then everyone's like, okay, well, why don't we go a little further here? Push. So we've been very fortunate to get enough rope to go out there and do some things that are incredibly different and unique within the space.
Oh, that's a testament to not only you presented both cases, but there's leadership support and buy-in and a sense of co-creation. But when the investment decision was made, saying we're going for the top, what thought, if any, did you put around, let's do this, but how do we not alienate the average hockey family too? Or like,
It's a great question. So hockey's an expensive sport. Yeah. Everyone knows it. When you think about Sherwood and where we wanted to go, so just give you an idea, like hockey sticks nowadays, you're up in the $400 range. Yeah. And like, it's not just because brands want to charge $400. It's the cost of goods now is extremely higher. Like the innovation in these hockey sticks is insane. Yeah. The carbon fiber weaves and all these different pieces, it's more expensive to to purchase and make these pieces of art, these pieces of innovation. But does everyone need a Ferrari? Right. So if you're a 12-year-old kid and you want the latest and greatest hockey stick, sure, you can go out and buy a $420 hockey stick. But if you don't know how to drive a Ferrari, why do you have a Ferrari in your hands, right? So there's this piece that we always thought about with Sherwood is that we know that hockey is expensive. We know that to compete at the pinnacle level of the NHL and these other elite leagues, you need to have the product to be able to be there with that athlete. Yeah. But you also need to supplement that with products that consumers can go out and pick up on a weekend if they're playing shinny with their friends, or if little Johnny or Sally want to get into the sport. Like we sell, $79 packs that have everything in it, sticks, protective, everything to get people started. So we always try to make sure that there's options for people to come in that are well closer to, I would say, what majority of people can afford within the sport, while also playing at the top. So there's this fine balance where you don't want to alienate, the new people coming into the sport of hockey, or the people that may not be able to afford the best product in the market, but you still can give them really great product at a really good price point, while also speaking to those other athletes at the highest level.
Based on that, does the brand have the ability or the infrastructure to connect, kind of like the Toyota Lexus model? You get in with the Toyota, you get like, what have you thought about as it relates to nurturing and contributing to lifetime value? So this value pack entry level becomes the...
Yeah. When we picked up Sherwood, we found out that there was a lot of people that had some sort of interaction with Sherwood at one point in time. Okay. But it was bookended. It was they started with Sherwood, then they left Sherwood to play competitive hockey, and then when they're 40, 50, 60, they came back because of the price point. Right. They didn't want to spend $400 on a hockey stick anymore. They wanted to spend $99 on a hockey stick. So we missed this massive segment of the market for Sherwood, but we knew that we had the bookends. Right. So it was trying to figure out, how do you keep the consumer? How do you make sure that they don't leave your brand? Yeah. Because we know that we had a starting point. It's just not about how do you introduce people to Sherwood. It's how do you make sure that they understand that Sherwood can continue on with their hockey versus dropping them and then coming back.
Wow. So you were working, this investment was made, you got ducks in a row, you got some players, but then a nice little fortuitous bounce came along with the number one draft pick. Yes. And tell us about this story.
Man, oh man. So we're talking about Connor Bedard for the folks.
For those living under a rock.
Exactly. So we were looking at Connor for years, well before his draft year. We knew he was a special talent.
Every other brand.
And I'm talking not even hockey brands. I'm talking every major brand in the world. If you know what he could do for your brand, they were lining up at the door for this kid. So we knew that he needed to pick a hockey brand. He was going to probably pick a banking company to work with, a beverage company, like the normal kind of portfolio of sponsorships.
Yeah.
So we started engaging with Connor well before his draft year, but we did it in a very intimate way with him, where we removed the political side of this, we removed the corporate side of this, and things like, just as an example, like when we partnered with Drake and OVO, and we created this collaboration of hockey gear, bags, sticks, and everything, we would send it over to him and say, hey, Connor, thought you would enjoy, checking this out.
Yeah.
And his reaction, I get a text message the next day saying, oh my God, this product is amazing. Thank you so much for sending this over. So you could tell that he was engaged with what the brand was doing. But that was it. Like, there was no strings attached. We just said, hey, we want to introduce ourselves. But when the time came for Connor to make a decision on what brand he wanted to go after, it wasn't a cold call. Like we had formed a relationship with Connor for years prior to that. And it wasn't until then that so I flew out to North Vancouver with my pro rep. It was Connor and his two parents in the room, mom and dad. And we had just a really great, honest conversation about what Sherwood is about and what we would do with Connor and how he would be integrated within the family. And we knew that we were approaching this with a very different angle. Yeah. It was actually funny. Right around that same time, the movie Air came out.
I was just going to say.
What's hilarious.
Eerily familiar.
What's hilarious is that before this meeting with the Bedards, I'd never seen it. Right? I'm a huge basketball guy. Yeah. Love Jordan. LeBron's a GOAT. Yeah. But I had never watched it before. Right? I knew about it, but I'm like, I don't want to watch it until after. And then, we finished the session, and then I think 2 days later, I watch Air. It's like, and I got goosebumps because I'm like, we had such a similar approach to what was going on in his world that just really resonated. And it was not taking a page out of Nike's book, because like I said, I didn't know about that world. And then I find out afterwards that the comparisons are actually very similar. But the fact that we could bring Connor in because of what we've created as a brand, rather than just a transactional conversation, I think it just speaks wonders to, one, what the collective team within Sherwood has been able to create, but two, the prowess of athletes nowadays. Yeah.
Maturity of them.
My goodness. They're starting to understand what a personal brand is.
Right.
And it's not just about a paycheck. It's like, what is the value that I can connect myself to for a lifetime?
And so obviously you knew that he was predisposed to that type of character or humanity because you knew him before. And
he just has a great team. Around. Like, he's just one of the most genuine, kind human beings I've ever met. His whole circle, his family, the agent, everyone is just such good humans. Like we always talk about, the good human element of our business, that they are exhibit A of just unbelievable human beings that understand it, that get it. And we want to give it right back to them because they are just a phenomenal team to work with.
When you brought these two cases to the team and you had, the collective had some cojones to decide we're going for the top. Okay, so traction was gained, but the future is unknown. Like where are some of the critical, in your mind, the critical tether points that need to be established? You anticipate will be established to continue the climb against?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that we but there was an opportunity to create a challenger brand, and hockey didn't have one. Right? Hockey was vanilla. It was very safe, very traditional. And we thought we could come in with a brand that could just ruffle feathers and disrupt the norm. Yeah. But we needed to make sure that everyone had the appetite and the nerves to handle the risk and appetite to handle the disruption, because it's not easy. No. You lose sleep. You think about this brand day in and day out. Sometimes you second guess if you're making the right decision or not. As I talk about, everyone's telling you to turn right, and you have to be willing to turn left. Exactly. It's so difficult. But if you know, and you have done the research, and you know your insights, and you know your consumer, and you see the bigger picture, the whole forest beyond the trees piece, you have to lean into it. But the thing is, you're never going to be 100% confident. No. So don't wait for 100%. No. You're never going to get there. But if you're 75, 80, and you're willing to take a risk, go for it. You got to go for it. But that's, like I said, that's where brands can become special. Yeah. Because I heard it on a podcast the other day. If you are striving for kind of the benchmark of what these other brands are doing, you're striving for mediocrity.
Me too.
Like it's literally just going after vanilla. Like, yes, we want to be exactly like these other brands, but it's the brands that decide to veer to the right or veer to the left.
Yeah.
Some of them don't make it. Some of those decisions they make ultimately cause them to kind of fade away into the distance. But the brands that don't, that get rewarded for going left or right because they know something that some other people just haven't been able to pick up on, you don't just add 1 or 2 steps to your journey. You're 30 to 40 to 50 steps now out in front because you've been willing to take those risks that other brands aren't.
Wow. I think about brands a lot in the categorizations of you're a Me Too brand.
Yeah.
So we do it the same as you.
Yeah.
We're a Me Better. So we're kind of the same as you, a bit better. And there's Me Only brands. Is there any strands of DNA that you see in Sherwood today that position it to have some Me Only componentry to it?
It's tough because there's certain elements within hockey, like the product that we create is a canvas for disruption. Like you can do a lot of crazy things with designs and colors and whatnot, but you also have to understand that isn't owned IP.
Right.
Like any brand could do that for the most part, but it's not until you start learning about how much you're willing to invest in those areas versus other people just wanting to copy that same playbook. So collaborations are a great example of that.
Yeah, you talked about it. You started on that topic, then you ran out of time.
Yeah.
Tell me some of the collaborations, like just community things. And
like the collaboration. So we wanted to bring in culturally relevant storylines to hockey. Okay. Like we looked at hockey and it was very safe. It was similar hockey brands talking to similar brands. Very much so. Yeah. It was fit into this box, and if you didn't fit into this box, hockey's not for you.
Okay.
We wanted to blow that whole box out. Like we wanted to color outside the lines. We wanted to give hockey something that created polarizing reactions because we knew that there are these hockey players that are coming up through the ranks now that don't want to walk like, talk like, smell like hockey players. They want to do their own thing. They want to be their own individuals. Now, hockey is one of the ultimate team sports, 100%. But it's made up of individuals. Yeah. And allowing individuals to showcase their personality is something that we want to be the platform for athletes to be able to say, I want to be part of Sherwood because they believe in X, because their brand values connect to who I am. Yeah. Because I think right now, like the collaborations that we put in there with like Drake and Market and Grateful Dead and all these other brands, it's just like wild, crazy launches that we've done, but they all sell out within 5 or 10 minutes because the consumer has never seen anything but hockey stories within hockey. All these customers, all these communities, all these players that we deal with and talk to, we know what they do outside of the rink. Yeah. It's not hockey, right? They're engaging with Carhartt and Off-White and all these other brands that make sense to who they are and represent. Right. We just wanted to bring those storylines within hockey. And I think because we don't necessarily have the old guard kind of set up within our brand, there's no one telling us that this isn't right, that you can't do this, that this will piss off kind of the OGs of your sport. It's, like I said, we've been given enough rope to say it's not for them. It's for them. It's literally for that 12 to 20-year-old kid that wants to be himself.
And isn't that a mark of a true brand? Is as much as it attracts the people it's for, it at the same time repels those that it isn't for. Right. It has to be.
I heard a quote the other day, and I absolutely love it. I may butcher it, but it's, I would rather have few people love me than everyone like me.
Totally.
Like that to me is like, that is a challenger brand. I mean, shit, we're here at Cult Gathering. Yeah. That is what a cult following is. Yeah. It's those people that will do everything for you, that'll protect you, that'll stand up for your brand, rather than the masses that'll just say, yeah, I kind of like the brand.
And none of this approach matters if the stick sucks.
100%. 100%. Like when we're in a retail environment, they always say product is king. Every department says they're king, by the way. Marketing is king, product is everything. But ultimately, if you sell a shitty product, you're not going to last too long. Yeah. So our product team has done a phenomenal job creating elite level product, entry level product, mid-tier product, but all built with a purpose of being able to perform for the athlete at that specific level.
Wow.
And if you don't have that, you can't lean on anything.
No.
Nothing. So it starts with that. Like, it's as important as brand and marketing, the whole deal. Everything is not equally weighted in all departments, but product is 100% an area that if you don't nail it, you're going to vanish.
Totally. Let's shift to Brendon now. Like,
sure.
Through this process, I don't know if you've ever sat down and thought about this, but
is
there anything that you've learned about yourself through this process? 'Cause you're a full-grown man when you took the posting, but how has it contributed to growth for you personally, or change?
Yeah, it's uncovered a passion for me. Like, I am incredibly passionate about Sherwood, but I'm also incredibly passionate about the journey to get here through brand.
Right.
And I think that's been the biggest piece for me. Like, I've been involved in marketing and brand for, whatever it is now, 20 plus years. But it wasn't until this brand came along that you started to fall in love with the process. And as a challenger brand, you thrive on when people say no, or you can't do something. Like in my talk this afternoon, when people told me to my face that no NHL player, I'll remember that till I die. No NHL player will ever play with that hockey stick.
It sounds like a joke now.
It literally is like ingrained in the back of my head. And all I wanted to do was prove not that individual, but prove whatever community that was coming from wrong. Because I so strongly believed that we could figure out a way to break hockey open while all these people tried to protect the traditions. And I said, you look at every sport in the world.
Yeah.
Very similar to like what Gary Vee talked about earlier today. Like, it's not like this is a net new creation in my mind that no one's ever thought of. Like, things are already happening. It's just understanding them.
Right.
You look at the NBA, you look at the NFL, you look at golf, which is probably arguably one of the most traditional sports. All of those sports, every sport in the world has evolved. They've been able to figure out how they could evolve their culture to resonate with that younger consumer for whatever reason. Yeah. Hockey never did that.
Interesting.
They just kept on, basically they picked an age. Okay, it's a 23-year-old player. And they just followed that 23-year-old player until they became 63. Yeah. But they never changed because that person never changed. They never said 23-year-old is out. What's the next 23? What's the next 23? Right. That's what these other sporting or just sports in general have done. Yeah. Leagues have done. What we wanted to do is just say, you guys are still technically marketing to a 40 or 50-year-old. Yeah. No one really evolved their pitch to that younger target consumer. So it's been weird in terms of that sense, but it's been just an epic ride this entire time.
What would you be willing to admit is your superpower as a marketing leader of people and process and brand? Something that you really rely on in a day-to-day because it's just...
Yeah. The power of communication.
Okay,
is a big part of that. So coming from a PR background,
right?
I find that writing in general is a skill set that people don't
undervalued.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And think about how many times you have to write in a day. Yeah. Emails and text messages and everything. And if you read a really well-written, purposeful email versus a mid-tier, and they both want the same thing, you automatically gravitate to that email that is just purposely written. And I feel like writing in general, just like I said, coming from that PR background, has been a bit of a superpower. Presenting, I feel like influence, just being able to get people to believe an idea. Yeah, we work in a brand world, but it's also a sales world at the end of the day. You need someone,
internal sales,
yeah, you need someone to believe not in an idea, but a product. Like, there's so many things that you need people to believe in that may start out as not wanting anything to do with it. I talk about changing someone's mind. It's exceptionally difficult because people are so set in their ways of believing something. And even if they hear something that they kind of say, oh shit, this is kind of right, they won't admit it because there's a pride element to it.
Confirmation bias.
100%. So I think between the writing, the communication, the presenting, and just overall the brand strategy side of understanding the community of kind of who you're talking to and why you can talk to it and the threshold of risk. That's where it's fun. The mundane is not fun. Having a little bit of risk, having kind of that disruption piece of making people feel something, I love it.
Man,
Absolutely
your
love
team
it.
probably runs through a brick wall for you. It's like, when you build this energy. That's awesome. What actually one very tactical thing on email. What is one or two things that you could give as advice in terms of like, think about this next time you're trying to be compelling or in an email? Like, is it brevity? Is it?
There's the obvious ones that I always kind of chuckle at is grammar. Like if you don't understand grammar, start there.
Yeah.
Because I read so many emails that have poor grammar.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, you start reading an email, and if the grammar is improper, you automatically are starting to form an opinion in your head whether you like it or not.
Right.
So don't allow your grammar, the dictation, whatever that may look like, to impede the message you're trying to get across.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest one. Like if you are trying to influence someone, sell someone, get something across the line, don't let all those other things get in the way. You have to use your words so precisely and, like I said, purposefully to be able to get that message across that removes all that minutia to remove any of this bias that someone picks up on within an email.
Wow. And all those filler words like, hey,
strip
great
it down.
to have a good day.
Strip it all down. Yeah. Just be impactful, be meaningful of how you want to speak in an email. But let's face it, don't email. Call someone. Go see someone. That's the other side. Pick up the phone. Exactly. And like, honestly, like people talk email, of course, because we all deal in email. But I used to have an office phone. Yeah. Then I came back to work and I didn't have an office phone. 2 months ago, I put an office phone back in because I don't want to have to email everyone. Yeah. I want to be able to call someone in Montreal, someone in LA, someone in New York. I don't want to email you.
Get it done.
Yeah. Sometimes, of course, you need to get a bunch of emails sent off. But like, if there's any opportunity to call someone or go see someone, the power of human connection, whether it's through voice, whether it's through physical presence, once again, I could probably sell someone much more efficiently by sitting in a room with them versus trying to just put a text message over. And everyone knows that, but no one really truly goes after that. No one truly
they're scared, right?
They are. Yeah. But like, what's the worst that can happen? They always talk about it in public speaking. What is the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
You're not going to die. No. That's probably the worst. But
people are going to forget about it 15 minutes later.
So it's just being able to have the confidence to be able to go in, have these conversations, whether they're good conversations, bad conversations, but that human connection is just so much more appreciated when you do it live, when you do it even on a phone, if that's what you need to do. But we're all just so, I would assume, just in this world now after the pandemic where the automatic kind of knee-jerk reaction is just like, let's hop on a Teams call. Let's hop on a Zoom call. I did that the other day. And the person jumps on, they're in the same office as me. I'm like, fuck, like, I'm come to see you. Like, so it's just, but it's such a reaction now that we have to break. Like, we have to get rid of that because it's deteriorating your message.
I love it, man. I got 2 more for you.
Let's do it.
What would you be okay admitting is a weakness in your game as a marketing leader?
It's like a resume question, so it's good. The weakness.
Maybe not that, but maybe something more that you are currently excited about seeing growth and improvement in.
Personally?
As a marketing leader.
As a marketing leader. Good question. I want to be able to measure more effectively the things that we do that are considered unmeasurable.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like
that's a whole other episode.
Like the biggest one that we always get the most shit for would be collaborations.
And standing up and being a voice of authority on it doesn't have to be pure attribution all the time.
Totally.
We need to.
But if you get a traditional brand marketer and say like, tell me, here's a list of all the attributes that I want you to kind of fill me in on of how this did X. I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
Because it's not, you're giving me the wrong list. Like I told you the story about Bedard and sending him the OVO stuff.
Yeah.
Where's that measure?
Yeah.
Where's that? Like there is no measure for those things. So I do agree there are definitely some areas that could be measured better, but then there's these other areas that are so difficult because whether either it's subjective or it's relationship based, but like there's areas that aren't going to be measured by an algorithm. No. They're not going to be measured on a spreadsheet, that you just have to be able to know it's the right thing to do to be able to move forward.
That's awesome. There was something subtle you said there when they said, give us the measurement or the report on this. What you said was the truth, which is I can't. But I think a lot of marketing people and marketing leaders, they try to pull something
Force it
out of
in.
their ass, right?
Totally.
And it perpetuates this problem that we're in, where
Yeah.
it's like we're closing off our minds to anything non-measurable, which
Correct.
makes a bunch of sameness.
Measurability protects you.
Right.
It insulates you. It makes you feel like you have a purpose, that if someone comes to you, because as we talked about today, marketing is always just getting the shit end of the stick. Like,
Yeah.
what do you do? Like, what's your
Yeah,
value?
yeah.
And that's what measurement truly is. Like these measurements that are always asked of all brand marketers, it's to be able to say, like, I have value.
Yeah.
I have value.
Wow.
But like, you don't necessarily have to hold that up. You can show someone something different. Someone's like, well, tell me the value of this collab. I'd be like, look at that athlete. I don't think we get him unless we did this.
Yeah.
Right. So there's just other areas that are tricky to explain to, potentially, merchandise leads or retail presidents or whoever that may be. But it's just a reality of our world.
Yeah, well, we have brand leaders like you that I think are willing to shoulder the responsibility of standing up to that.
It's honestly fun.
Okay, well, good.
It's
Keep
very
it going.
it's enjoyable, right? It's just enjoyable. Like, if you're not enjoying it, as Gary talked about earlier today, like, what the hell are we doing?
What are you doing?
And if you get a kick out of it, like if you play sports or if you're in that world, like, it's competition.
Totally.
And this is a world of competition, whether it's a competition with yourself, with other brands, it doesn't matter. But like, if you can figure out and channel that competition in a certain way that benefits you and your brand and your team, then you're in a good spot.
That's awesome, man. Appreciate it. Last one here.
Yeah,
so
go for it.
You think about all the brand and marketing coordinators, managers, maybe even sometimes interns. These are folks that have on their pin board that they want to lead a brand one day.
Yeah.
What are some of the tracks they can start laying to position themselves for that? Like, what advice would you give to the young brand leaders?
Young brand leaders,
Brand marketers.
find a mentor.
Okay.
Find a mentor that's kind of in that space. Whatever industry if it depends on which direction. Like, if you just want to be a brand leader, it doesn't matter the brand, doesn't matter the industry, there's probably a certain track that you want to go down that's probably a little bit more generalist when it comes to the theory of brand marketing. That is a little bit more textbook, educational experience within kind of those worlds. But if you want to lead a specific brand, or if you want to lead within a specific industry, get in the industry. Doesn't matter how you get in it, start to know it. Because if someone comes to me that wants to be part of Sherwood hockey, but they don't have any hockey experience, there's no passion for hockey, they've never worked in retail, that may be a bit of a gap, because knowing that world is such an advantage when you're able to come in and try to apply for that type of role. But for these young marketers that want to make a true impact, get in it. Just get in the industry that you want to, whether you're a janitor at a friggin' sports arena or whatever it is. Just get in and start learning the industry, because every industry is so nuanced.
Yeah, that's true.
That if you can pick up on these nuances earlier on, while also building kind of your resume on the kind of the brand marketing side, it'll just, you'll stand out of a crowd. Like, when I see a resume that has the brand marketing experience, whether it's with an organization that is adjacent to ours or not, but then also comes with this passion world that they are just dedicated towards, and in this case it would be hockey. If there's all these other hockey elements to it, that you can tell that this person just is ingrained in this community, or it could be an adjacent sport as well. But as long as there is a passion towards it and an understanding of the industry, I think that would be kind of the best bet.
It's amazing. We could do this for another hour, but Brendon, thanks so much, man. Thanks for sharing the way you're playing this game.
Appreciate it.
Keep leading for the leaders.